Okay, welcome everybody. I will call to order the Regional Hospital District meeting of May 23rd, 2023. First, we acknowledge that the Northern Rockies Administration Center is located in the heart of the traditional territory of the Dene, Cree, and Dune Saw people of Fort Nelson and Prophet River First Nations. We further recognize the rights provided by our treaty. Finally, we also celebrate the contributions and the enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that today's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually, is being streamed and recorded. Do we have any additions from council or the CAO? CAO additions today? None. Anything from council? Hearing none, we'll move on. Are there any attendees either in person or online that wish to comment on the agenda? Is there anyone online? And no one here in the gallery. So we'll move on. I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Can I get a motion? Moved by Councillor Enoch, seconded by Councillor Gerwing. All in favor? All opposed? That carries. I'll ask for a motion that the minutes of the Northern Rockies Regional Hospital District meeting of March 27th and the special hospital board meeting of April 17th, 2023 be adopted. Can I get a mover for that, please? Moved by Councillor Enoch, seconded by Councillor Dickey. All in favor? All opposed? That carries. Is there any business arising from the minutes? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to petitions and delegations. I'd like to introduce Alan Bone from Sander, Bone, Rose, and Grindle. But before we get on to this, I'm going to ask for a motion to move to a closed meeting under section 90, 1K of the community charter. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Dickey. All in favor? All opposed? That carries. We will take a pause to go in camera and we'll reconvene when the in-camera portion is complete. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I will recall to order the Regional Hospital District meeting of May 23rd, 2023. We'll move on to Administration Report 0323. Speaking to the report is CAO Barry. Please proceed.
Thanks, Acting Mayor. Just have admin report in front of you. The Northern Health has provided the various hospital districts with a copy of the MOU. Typically it gets renewed every 2 years. This is an opportunity for the hospital district board to provide any feedback or comments that they may wish to do. So when they drafted the report, it was fairly quick turnaround for the last meeting. So I don't know if councils had an opportunity, or sorry, the boards had an opportunity to give it a good look or not, and provide any feedback. It doesn't need to, you don't need to provide any today. We can schedule another meeting to discuss it specifically if council wishes, or provide some feedback now that we can investigate. It's entirely up to you. Typically the process is feedback provided back to Northern Health, and then at the fall meeting, which occurs in Prince George, which the chair attends, so Chair Fraser, and usually myself, usually CAOs and finance officers attend. That's typically when that document gets re-signed. Minimal changes, no change compare if you were to compare this document to the one 2 years ago, and there was some minor changes, just minor updates that occurred prior to that. Fundamentally, the document when it came out in 2003 it's fundamentally the same.
Okay, does anyone on council wish to provide feedback at this point, or do we want to wait until another meeting is scheduled? Councillor Grimm?
Oh, sorry, I'm ready to provide.
Go ahead.
Okay, so on page 1 of the MOU, 11 of 19 of your agenda package, under intent, the first numbered point says, upon receiving the funding envelope from the province for capital improvement projects, Northern Health will allocate blah, blah, blah. And then it says each HSDA will contact its respective RHD to share the plan by community, including identifying funding allocation by each community for feedback. So what's the timeline on that? Or like, I guess I'm wondering if it wouldn't be a more, the document would be more based in reality if there was a timeline. Like it just says that the RHD will be contacted, but when will it be contacted? Would that be contacted? Like, what's the timeline? And a lot of this document, that's my concerns, is there's no timeline associated with it. So is it, yeah, that was my first point. And then number 2, it says, again, upon receiving the funding envelope from the province, Northern Health will present proposals at a meeting of the chairs, staff of all RHDs within the region to seek feedback and identify funding requirements. Capital improvement projects requiring RHD funding will be presented to the regional planning group before being presented to the Northern Health Board for approval. So, does this really happen? Like, does this really take place? And then is there a timeline associated when this happens? And I'm not looking for y'all for answers because I don't know that anybody has the answers, but yeah, again, there's no timeline associated. So, or does it take place at the fall? Does it take place at the spring? And if the chairs and the staff of all RHDs within the region give feedback, what's the mechanism for council to give feedback to the chairs and staff of the RHD? Just trying to figure out what council's role would be in that bullet.
Council or the board? You mean the board?
Well, it's, yeah, like it says Northern Health will present proposals at a meeting of the chairs and staff of all RHDs within the region to seek feedback and identify funding requirements. So it doesn't say when this takes place, and it also doesn't indicate what is our mechanism to provide that feedback, because it's just chairs and staff at this meeting. And then number 3 is the same thing. It's like there's no timelines associated with when any of these interactions with council, or not council, but RHDs will take place. So number 4, a really good example of that is the boiler project that we were all of a sudden given, I don't know, a couple months notice or whatever to come up with X amount of dollars. It never was on any capital plan anywhere. I mean, it was a grant opportunity, so it all makes sense, but you know what I mean? It's like, so when does this all take place? And then my last point is number 13. It says the Northern Health Board will provide opportunity for each RHD to meet annually with the Northern Health Board when the board is meeting in the RHD's jurisdiction. So I would argue that because we are so far removed from the rest of the RHDs, the board does not meet here very often. If my information is accurate, the last time they met here was in 2018. So I see this as a disadvantage for us because they don't meet here very often. So I would like to have that removed when the board is meeting in the RHD's jurisdiction. Like, I think that the Northern Health Board will provide an opportunity for each RHD to meet annually with the Northern Health Board, period. And I don't even expect Northern Health to pick up the expense. If the RHD here wants to meet with the board annually, I think that we should have that opportunity.
And you're meeting in person?
Well, I don't know, could be virtually, like,
Okay,
you know, I mean, they go
Just
on.
because now, especially since the pandemic,
Mhm.
meetings now have become more broader in terms of what the expectation is, right? But
Yeah.
before we talk about meeting, it was they come and visit us, or vice versa, where today it's not necessarily the same. It's the virtual attendance has been so
Yeah.
common. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, no, I would have no problem virtually. I think I just see this as a disadvantage because if the board is meeting in Prince George, then the Prince George RHD gets to meet with the board. If it's meeting in Williams Lake, they get to, you know what I mean? They don't very often meet here. So I think that we should have the same advantage. And I think that we should have the ability to meet annually if we desire that. And I know it goes on further to say that annually, mayor and council can meet with the president of Northern Health and the board chair at the NCLGA and UBCM, but that's not meeting with the board as a whole. And as we found out, board representation is not linked to geographic regions. So people that come from this area are not necessarily our representative. So I feel like as a mayor and council, we don't really have an opportunity to address the board as a whole. And I think that we should. That's my spiel.
Probably push it. Sorry, a couple timeline things. So when Northern Health did that presentation to council, the last hospital district board, I can't recall. They presented a bit of a timeline, outline when projects are typically presented, and then when they're presented to the hospital district boards, what that process looked like, and then when it actually gets forwarded to the board for approval and whatnot. Typically the fall meeting, this fall meeting that comes up is when where the chairs and staff are present. That's one of Prince George, and they'll go through a lot of that information. That information should be coming back to the board at that time too, the hospital district board, not the Northern Health Board. The past few years, I'll say the past 2 to 3 years, have been a bit of a not necessarily streamlined as well when timelines haven't been met based on the Northern Health internal timelines when they communicate what they are. And a lot had to do, not to blame things in the pandemic, but it threw the process into a bit of a tailspin because those meetings were occurring face to face. Of course, there's lots of other priorities that were derailing some of the process and progress, but it's all, I think generally it comes down to what are the timelines and how are they being met? And how does that communication process, similar to some of the feedback I think that was presented at the previous, when the last MOU, the previous MOU was signed a couple of years ago.
Well, I think I would like to see the timelines right in this document so that you can read this document and you can know at the fall meeting they're going to be doing this or that. So anybody new on council can go to this document and know what the expectations are instead of going to this document and then going over to this document to find out what's going to happen at the spring and fall meeting, right? You know what I mean? So if it's all right there in the MOU, then that leads to less confusion. And really, basically, I'm looking to create a mechanism for mayor and council of the NRM to be able to interact with the Board of Northern Health and not just with the president and the board chair. I believe that there needs to be some opportunity for the board to hear from us.
Okay. We'll summarize that information and make sure and get it sent off to Northern Health.
And one question, this document now, is this a Northern Health document or is this a Northern Rockies document? The MOU.
The MOU is from Northern Health, but it's an agreement between the various hospital district areas. So it's within all those areas within the Northern Health region. Perfect.
And what other point, if I may?
One other point, go ahead.
They can be different, right? Like our MOU can be different from the Caribou District's MOU, or do they all have to be the same?
Traditionally, they've been the same,
Mhm.
but I do believe that the Northwest had a bit of a different document in the early stages. I'm going to say, don't quote me on this, but between 03, 05, 06, that was the only change at the time. And why, I don't know. It was just brought up in one of the meetings. But I don't see, besides efficiencies and trying to have the same similar processes in place for each hospital district, there's nothing suggesting that they can't be different or unique based on an area that I'm aware of. Because typically they haven't been.
Okay, I think we'll follow up with that on a future meeting. Okay, moving on. I think that concludes the business for this meeting. No?
Under new business, you may want to invite Alan to provide his presentation of the auditor's report.
Okay, very good. So we'll do that under new business. Mr. Bowen, go ahead and provide your presentation. You'll have to unmute your mic there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Once again, I want to thank the directors of the hospital district for inviting myself on behalf of our firm, Santa Rosa Bowen Grindle, to present to you the auditor's report. The auditor's report is 2 pages long, so I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I will give you the Coles Notes version with a little bit of detail here and there. So to begin with, I'd like to present the audit opinion. We have audited the financial statements of the Northern Rockies Regional Hospital District, which comprise the statement of financial position as at December 31st, 2022, and the statement of operations, statement of cash flow, and changes in net assets for the year then ended. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the organization as at December 31st, 2022, and the results of its operations, its cash flow for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So that is a clean auditor's report, and I'd like to congratulate council or directors and management on a job well done. I'll go on just to give you some more detail on the auditor's report here. So the basis for our opinion, we conducted our audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. We are independent of the organization in accordance with the ethical requirements that are relevant to our audit of the financial statements. And we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with those requirements. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with public sector accounting standards. And for such internal controls, management deems necessary to enable the presentation of the financial statements that are free from error, from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the organization's financial reporting process. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue our auditor's report. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but not guaranteed that the audit conducted in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in aggregate, they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of the users taken on the basis of the standards, the basis of the financial statements. We also identify and assess the risk of material misstatement of the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, and design our procedures accordingly. We obtain an understanding of the internal controls of the audit in order to design our audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstance, but not for the express purpose of determining the effectiveness of the organization's internal controls. We evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies used and the reasonableness of the accounting estimates related. We can conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of going concern basis of accounting, and we evaluate the overall presentation. So that's everything that we did in order to present that audit opinion to the directors. And again, I'd just like to congratulate the directors on a balance or on a job well done and a clean auditor's report. Does anybody have any questions on that report?
Thank you for the presentation. Do we have any questions from the floor here? Hearing none. I'll ask for a motion to accept the auditor's report as presented. Moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Enox. All in favor? All opposed? That carries unanimously. Okay. I think that concludes the business of the meeting. So I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Can I get a mover? Moved by Councillor Gerwing, seconded by Councillor Enox. All in favor? All opposed? That carries. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks very much, Alan.